All right. Google just turned on the AI answer machine in France, and I want to talk about why that is a much bigger deal than it sounds like on paper. So here's the deal. On the 22nd of July, 2026, Google flipped the switch in France for two things: AI overviews, which is the little AI written answer that shows up above the regular blue links, and AI mode, which is basically full conversation mode, where Google stops being a phone book and starts being a guy who read the phone book and now has opinions about it. Desktop, mobile, the Google apps on Android and iPhone, the whole rigmarole, all of it live. And France was one of the last big markets left without it, which frankly was not an accident. France has been having a very French argument with Google for years about neighboring rights, which is the legal idea that if you are going to scrape up a publisher's work and show pieces of it, you should probably, I do not know, pay them. Wild concept. So the launch got tangled up in all of that regulatory back and forth, and now it is out. But here is why I actually care about this, and it is not the France part. This is another step in Google turning from a search engine into an answer engine. And those are not the same animal. A search engine points at the web. An answer engine reads the web for you, chews it up, and hands you a conclusion. The first one is a librarian. The second one is a guy at a party who skimmed the book and is now explaining it to you with total confidence. And sometimes he is right, and sometimes he is very much not. Let me get into the actual technology because it is genuinely interesting and I do not want to just complain for 10 minutes. Google says this runs on its Gemini 3.5 model family, and it uses a technique they call query fan out. Here is what that means in plain English. You ask one messy question, something like, I am flying to Lisbon with a toddler in August. What should I know? In old Google, that question was a disaster, right? It is 4 questions crammed into a trench coat. Fan out breaks that into subtopics: weather, flight rules for kids, stroller policies, whatever, runs a bunch of searches in parallel, and then stitches the results back into one answer. So instead of you opening 14 tabs and doing the assembly work in your own head, the machine does the assembly. And Google says people are already asking bigger questions because of it. Their number is that AI mode questions run roughly 3 times longer than a conventional search, which tracks, right? When you think you are talking to a person, you talk like a person. Nobody types best hotel cheap at a human being. It also takes text, voice, images, and uploaded files. And then there is Search Live, which is the part that made me sit up. You point your phone camera at something, you talk to Google, and Google is looking at the same thing you are looking at while you talk about it. So you are standing in front of a broken dishwasher going, what is this part? And Google is looking at the part with you. That is not search anymore. That is a helper standing in your kitchen. Make sense? Now, the good version of this is really good. Comparing coffee brewing methods, understanding a medical term your doctor said too fast, figuring out which of 2 products actually does what you need. The tab opening, cross-referencing, mental spreadsheet work, that was always the annoying part. This deletes the annoying part. But here's the trade, and it is a real one. When the AI answer is the first thing you see, and it looks authoritative, and it is sitting on Google's page with Google's typeface and Google's whole vibe, that answer becomes reality for a lot of people. And the failure modes are sneaky. It can flatten a real disagreement into a fake consensus. It can leave out the context that changes everything. It can put a genuinely excellent source right next to some random content farm and present them as equals. And when it is wrong in the same calm voice it uses when it is right. That is the part that gets people. There is no wobble in the tone. Google says the links are still there. And there is a web mode if you want the classic list of blue links. Fair. Though Le Monde reports you cannot simply switch the AI features off entirely, so you can steer around them, but you cannot uninstall them. Okay, now the money fight, because this is where it gets spicy. Google says 450 French media outlets will be compensated when excerpts of their work show up in AI overviews. And they have added a control in Search Console so a publisher can opt out of the generative AI features without vanishing from normal search results. That is actually a meaningful distinction because for years, the only lever publishers had was the nuclear one. Block Google entirely and cease to exist. Now, there is a dial instead of a switch, but publishers are still nervous. And honestly, look at the incentives. If the answer on the page looks complete, why would you click? You would not. I would not. Nobody reads the footnotes when the summary sounds finished. And there is some observational evidence behind the worry. Le Monde points to a German search visibility study that found clicks on the top organic result drop somewhere in the range of 25 to 30% when an AI overview was present, with an average drop around 6.6% in Google traffic across the sites they looked at. And a chartbeat analysis highlighted by the Reuters Institute found visits from Google to about 2,500 news sites fell roughly a third between November of 2024 and November of 2025. Now, big honest caveat, that does not prove AI overviews caused all of it. Social platforms changed, habits changed, a lot moves at once. Correlation, causation, we all took the class. But it does explain why publishers look at this and see a threat and not a redesign. And Google pushes back hard. They say search still sends billions of visits to websites every single day. They say the total web traffic collapse people are describing has not actually shown up in the aggregate numbers. They point to experiments in the US and India where users with AI summaries did about 10% more searches, not fewer. And their most interesting argument, in my view, is a quality argument. They say the clicks that do come out of an AI answer are worth more because that person already got the basics and is clicking, because they actually want the depth. They are the ones who read, register, shop, subscribe. Fewer visitors, better visitors. Is that true? Honestly, we do not know yet. It is plausible, but it is also exactly what you would say if you were the one holding the traffic faucet. So, take it with the appropriate amount of salt. Here is the deeper thing, though, and this is the part I keep chewing on. AI is becoming the middleman for the open web, and that flips the entire game. Search engine optimization is quietly turning into generative engine optimization. It used to be, how do I rank number one? Now it is, how do I get quoted inside the machine's answer? Because being number 4 on a list nobody scrolls to is worth roughly nothing, and being the sentence the AI paraphrases is worth everything, which hands enormous power to whoever decides which sources get picked, how they get summarized, whether they get credited, and who gets paid. That is a lot of leverage for one company. And there is a circularity problem sitting underneath all of it that nobody has solved. The AI is only good because the web is full of reporting, expertise, forums, weird, obsessive hobbyist pages, reference material, all written by people who got something back for writing it. If you weaken the reason those people write, you eventually starve the thing that feeds the model. You do not notice immediately. You notice in about 3 years when the answers get subtly worse, and nobody can say exactly why. So what do you actually do with this for you as a user? Treat the AI overview as a starting point, not a verdict. Open the links underneath. Compare a couple of independent sources, check the date, check who wrote it, and be extra careful with anything medical, legal, financial, political, or safety related, because those are exactly the questions where a confident summary that is slightly off can really hurt you. Use web mode when you specifically need to see the disagreement, not a smoothed over average of it. And think for 1 second before you upload a personal file or open your camera to a search engine, because that is a different category of sharing than typing a query for creators and publishers. Direct relationships are the whole ballgame now. Newsletters, subscriptions, communities, and yes, the preferred source controls. Referral traffic used to be a reliable river. It is becoming weather. Bottom line. This is genuinely useful technology that makes hard questions easier, wrapped around an unresolved economic question about who pays for the knowledge it is repackaging. Both things are true at once. Use it, enjoy it, and stay a little suspicious of it. That is not cynicism, that is just literacy. Questions, comments, concerns, bribes. I will see you in the next one.